Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah.
Hey everybody, how are you? I hope everyone is having a good Tuesday. I actually got home a little bit early today because I finally got my tooth fixed, and so that's exciting. I have to go back next week though because I have to have some other things done because I had a tooth pulled not long ago and my other tooth has shifted. So I have a big gap between my teeth. So I'm going to go have that fixed next week. So this morning, and I'm not sure, I hadn't seen Pookie yet, but for some reason this morning I decided to check my email, which I never do before work. And I saw an email from Pookie, aka Spitfire, that had this story about the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore collapsing. So I was like, oh my gosh. So of course, I was watching some stuff. I did post a short video this morning before I went to work. Usually I spend the time playing Monopoly Go, but today I worked a really quick video, and then I knew immediately I was going to go live. So I did watch quite a few news clips when I got home, and they had an earlier press conference this morning or late in the morning. They had another press conference this afternoon, and then I did see just before coming live that the NTSB is also on site, and they have also started their investigation into this incident. So the picture I have on the board, I'm sorry, I'm thinking I'm at work still. The picture I have on screen is the bridge at sunset. So just to give an idea of what the bridge looked like prior, the last update that I heard is that there are still 6 construction workers who were working on potholes who are unaccounted for. I haven't heard anything up until this point about any cars that may have been on the bridge, but I did read that the ship had initiated a mayday call, which may have saved lives because they had stopped traffic from entering the bridge. So and Team Brittany, I did get your email, an email from you earlier. I'm not sure if that's the one you're referring, but I did see the email that you sent me earlier. And AMAC, I agree. Definitely a fear living in a city with a million bridges. And when I was 9, I was thinking I was 10, but when I was 9, it was 1987. The New York State Thruway collapsed. And I remember it. I mean, it was, gosh, it's going to be 40 years soon. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Every time I go over that span of Interstate 90, I just, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen again. So it's scary, especially with infrastructure in the United States being old, and it just seems like it's happening more than obviously more than it should, but it's happening more rapidly in between incidents. I agree, Miss Robin. It's super terrifying. Hey, K-Braze, Queen Bella, good to see you. Oh, there's Pookie. And yes, thank you to Pookie for always sending me stories. I don't get to all of the stories that Pookie sends me, but this one, like I said, for some reason I checked email this morning before work, and I'm glad I did. Hey, Road Rash, SoFlo, Tracy Esme. Hey, Sober Pug. So thank you, everybody who's coming in. I am going to skip forward a little bit here. So K-Braze, that's one thing too. That ship is huge. It would be very hard to stop it or slow down. I hadn't realized that it wasn't actually that far. It had just left the port of Baltimore, and it's been reported it was moving at about 9 miles an hour. And you can see in some of the photos, you can see that the anchors had been dropped. However, it's unknown if they were dropped prior to the collision or after the collision. But it definitely had a loss of power, as you could see on the video, the initial video. Yeah, so Flo, that's what we are going to hear from some witnesses or residents who live in Baltimore, and they kind of talk about how it's going to affect, that ripple effect type of thing, similar to the I-95 collapse in Philadelphia not long ago. Oh, thank you. Is this? Oh, this is the one I saw earlier, but what I'm going to do, AMAC, do you have a link for that? Because I don't know how to open it in my browser. Because that is the one that I saw earlier. Hey, Cocoa Puff, good to see you. Yeah, the Thruway collapse was in 1987. April something. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge disaster. I don't remember that one, Miss Robin. I was actually talking, it made me think of the, gosh, was it in Minnesota? Was it I-63? There was another bridge collapse that I started thinking about when I was talking about this one. I don't remember the Sunshine Skyway. Hey, Southern Gal, good to see you. Oh, okay. It was on Instagram, so I screen recorded it. I think I can find, actually, I think that's the one Pookie sent me as well. Let me go to my, okay, so give me 1 second, y'all. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is the one, it was, oh, right, the live stream. Okay, but that's not going to work now because, all right, I think I do have it in one of the videos, though, that I did choose. And I could also actually, now that I think about it, oh, and actually the first video I have for us actually has the time lapse. So again, this took place in Baltimore at about 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. And so this is where, this is from The Guardian, and there is no sound, but this actually you can see, so over here on the far left is the cargo ship. And you can, and I wasn't going to necessarily use this video because there's not a lot of commentary. However, what I really liked that The Guardian did was they have a visual of how the cargo ship veered course. And that to me was really interesting because obviously if you lose power, you lose steering. And it just, at this point, I think it was just a tragic accident. But right, so you're going to see like all of the lights like turn off. So that's at 1:24 a.m. So here the lights go completely off. Oh wow, Lisa, the Skyway Bridge one, they left the old part after they put up the new bridge just for memories. I mean, wouldn't that be, I don't know how I feel about that, especially if there were fatalities. I mean, wouldn't it be a constant reminder of those? I mean, obviously, you remember those who were lost, but I feel like it would, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And so again, the ship continues to move towards the bridge. And this is what I hadn't realized because I sped up the video, the time-lapse video. The lights stayed off for almost a minute. And so and again, I am not versed in, sailing a cargo ship or any of that. But I would think if you lose power for almost a minute, I don't know, like in what situations would you drop your anchors because you feel something is really wrong? To me, for the power going off for almost a minute, that tells me something's probably really wrong. Oh, okay. They fish off the end of it. I guess it was too costly to take all of it down. That makes sense. It's pretty close, Southern Gal. It's pretty close because you're going to see in just a few moments, you're going to see the power comes back on, and then almost instantly is when it hits this barrier. Okay, so now it's 1:25 a.m. So they did cut out 2 minutes. Well, about a minute. Well, 2 minutes because the power was out for a minute. About a minute. It's now 1:25. So that's 2 minutes after this video started. And you can see the lights go back on briefly. But again, prior, it seemed there were a lot more lights on. And then this is where the smoke starts. So you can barely see it, but just above, so right where my cat is, you can see black smoke start to billow. And then you can see here's where it starts to almost shift. So if we just back up a little bit, you can see that it is starting to kind of veer off course. Oh, I know, Miss Robin. I'm hoping that they would have. Bree, thank you so much. Late fee. Damn it, YouTube! I've been waiting for this all day. Oh, you didn't get a notification? I thought YouTube was on it because I've been getting my notifications somewhat on time lately. But thank you. I really appreciate that. And so now they did, okay, so that was, so now this is a minute later. Let me just back it up a little bit. So we were at 1:25. So I'm just going to play this again. So again, 1:20. So that was a minute. But again, they did skip over several seconds. And so now this is where the ship goes dark again for just over 30 seconds. And what I was able to see is that you're going to see almost like a plume of dust or smoke, or maybe it's water. And that's when this barrier gives way. Hey, Crazed at 5, thanks for coming out of the bushes. So this is what I found really interesting, and I haven't seen this on any other. So you can see here it was at 8.7 knots. And this is saying tracking video of the ship shows how the ship moves off its planned course. So I'm assuming it was supposed to be going straight, right? And you can see it kind of went off course. And again, this is the bridge. So this would be the bridge right here, this yellow line. And so it hits one of the, and it seems like it almost made it. And now you can see the dust or the debris causing that pillar to just completely fall. And then these photos were incredible to me. This aftermath, just, it pretty much got completely through. Or is this facing? Actually, I think this is front facing. So this must be, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I think it almost got through before it collapsed. But again, I'm not sure what direction we're facing. And so again, that was from The Guardian. So the next
live, as we hope to get a little more information. As you said, there's much more that is not.
I gotta back this up a little bit. So this was from NBC News. And again, they had a special report this morning. And there is going to be an initial press conference that we're going to listen to. This is a pretty long clip, but it has a lot of information in it. And, you know, it's important. So, yeah, a lot of weight on that hit. The bridge didn't stand a chance. Yes, Cocoa Puffs. So I had read in one article, and actually before we get to this, let's go to this article just to kind of have like, actually we're going to do the video first, but I had read that the cargo ship had sent out a mayday call, which alerted authorities. They had alerted them of the power outage. So they were able to block off vehicle traffic from going onto the bridge. However, the construction workers were still on the bridge. Oh, you saw a semi just make it off? Yeah, Bree, they did stop traffic. And that's why I'm wondering, like, I mean, obviously it's you know, over 1.5 miles long, this bridge. Possibly the construction workers were trying to leave the bridge. That, you know, that would all come out in time. I haven't heard anything regarding that yet. Hey, Gina.
Francis Scott Key Bridge, struck by a cargo ship and collapsing overnight. You can see the video right there, shows the entire structure appearing to break apart. This is a 1.5 mile bridge over Baltimore Harbor. NBC's Tom Costello is right there at the scene for us. And Tom, obviously the concern is anyone who was on the bridge, members on the cargo ship. What can you tell us? What's the latest right now?
That's right. This happened at 1.
Okay, and again, this was at, I'm thinking 6:15 Eastern. I'm trying to think about mountain time.
30 this morning, a Singapore-flagged vessel,
Yep, so
a cargo
6:15
ship, struck
a.m.
one of the support structures, one of the pylons, if you will, holding up the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And with that, the entire bridge, as you saw in that video, collapsed into the water. Just a stunning scene here. And this is a critical artery, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, into and around the port of Baltimore, which, as you know, is one of the nation's busiest ports. And so that is going to create a massive logistical headache this morning. The Maryland governor has declared a state of emergency. The transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, in contact, I should say, with the.
And just give me 1 second. I'm not sure why my closed captioning isn't work. Oh, here, auto-generated. There we go. So, you know, I like to have those closed captions on.
Maryland governor as well. Fire department and Coast Guard rescue operations have been ongoing since very early, searching for any potential victims who may have gone into the water. And we have heard there may be 7 people who went into the water, maybe more.
And so initially there were 7. They did recover one of those 7. So there are now, up until the time I went live, there are 6 who are unaccounted for at this time.
Nobody on the ship is missing, we believe. However, the concern is that there may have been construction workers on top of the bridge when the bridge was struck and that they may have gone into the water. As a result, this is a massive search and rescue operation, and it's being described by some at the Maryland State Police as an ongoing mass casualty incident. This is right along the critical I-95 corridor, which, of course, is the critical artery up and down the East Coast. So if you were planning to drive up and down the East Coast through Baltimore, be aware that you will see traffic affected. The traffic is being told to avoid 695 and go up I-95 and 895 instead. Nonetheless, as you would expect, we have major emergency operations now staging at our location. We are just down.
Okay, so that view shows me the cargo ship had almost, again, it almost made it, and it just hit it.
The road from this bridge that stretches over the Patasco River, and it is unlikely, of course, given the state of that bridge, there's going to be any activity, of course, for some time.
Tom,
right now, it is all about life-saving rescue operations underway.
Yeah, so this is the ship is called the Dali. As you said, it's Singapore flagged. As I understand it, it had just departed Baltimore Harbor, presumably loaded with cargo. When you look at the video closely, it appears as the cargo ship, it looks very dark as it hits that support structure. You know, one can't speculate, but it looks very, very dark as it hits the support structure. What do you make of that?
Well, not only that, but notice right above it, that appears to be smoke coming from the ship itself. All of this is according to eyewitnesses who've also said they thought they saw smoke coming from the ship. So that clearly is going to be part of this investigation. And I must say, all of us who live in the greater Washington, Baltimore area and who are very much aware of what a critical bridge the Francis Scott Key Bridge is are stunned.
Southern Gal, the FBI is saying no. I did read that the FBI had investigated, because initially, even myself, when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, like it almost seems deliberate. However, the FBI has concluded that it was not a terrorist attack, and that at this point it seems like something happened to cause that cargo ship to go off course. Canuckian, I'm not sure how you can tell that the throttle was hit. But I have watched the full video. The lights did go off for some time before they turned back on.
That how a single cargo ship could take this bridge out. How could they have hit the pylon to begin with? And second of all, how is it possible that this bridge was so vulnerable?
That's the word I was trying to think
taken
of.
Out by a single cargo vessel.
Agreed.
Regardless, as you know, this is. Yeah, and this is a critical port. The Port of Baltimore handles just a tremendous amount of volume, shipping volume for the East Coast. And this morning, all of that is very much kind of hitting the pause button as this ongoing search and rescue operation continues.
It's still dark there, and we're looking at some overhead images there, Tom. I don't know if you can see. We seem to have some new images coming in, aerial images. So we have to wait for the sun to come up to see just how extensive this is. This is a 1.5 mile long bridge, as you mentioned. It's known, it's the Key Bridge in the Baltimore Harbor, but part of 695, I-695, a heavily trafficked area, as you know. Can you tell whether, I mean, you see sort of a portion of the bridge appearing to still standing leading up to, I mean, is it fair to say, do you have any insight from your vantage point, is the entire bridge collapsed, or is this a partial bridge collapse?
Savannah, here's the thing. You have as good, if not better view than I do, because I'm about a mile down the road and we can't, of course, go over that road because it goes right into the bridge.
Right.
But these aerial shots that we're looking at really provide us the best perspective. And to me, this looks like, for all intent and purposes, a total bridge collapse there. Maybe just a tiny piece of it is still standing, but this is just.
And so, again, I'm assuming, because here it appears that the ship has power again. Unless that's just because, certain things were like that fell off, but it looks like it has power again. Oh, okay, Bree. So this is exactly what happened to the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. One pylon took 2 out of 3 of the bridge, 2/3 of the bridge down. Minneapolis rush hour collapse went down without an impact, but again, it was one pylon that went. I remember that's the Minneapolis one is the one that I had remembered. That one always, for some reason, is ingrained into my brain. Yeah, Pookie, and the one, I didn't realize you sent me the link, and you had sent me a timestamp, but you didn't send a link, but then I did see that you did send it in a different email, so I don't mind the many emails. I actually appreciate them. I agree, K-Braze. None of us were on the ship when it was happening, so how would we know for sure? Absolutely. And I'm not one to, I was looking at Twitter just to see if there was any different viewpoints of the incident, and the conspiracy theories are abound, of course. But I am going to show some images that I did find that I hadn't seen before.
Just an unbelievable series of events that have brought this bridge down here in Baltimore.
Well, there's, as you said, up to 20 people potentially still missing. The shipping company says that all of its cargo ship employees are accounted for. That is good news. There are reports of construction workers who were on the bridge at the time and who may be missing in the water, and talk about conditions there. You're standing, it is right there. It is very, very cold. We understand the water there, the Patapsco River, to be about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which of course brings up concerns of hypothermia very, very quickly.
Well, and this happened at 1:30 in the morning. So if anybody had gone into that water, you'd be very concerned about survivability at this point. It's about 35 degrees out here, out on the land.
And not only that, Sinner, with having generators running, of course, I barely passed physics, so this is not a question for me. But say they did drop their anchors when that power went out for a minute, up to a minute, how long would those anchors have taken to stop that barge? So I guess my question is, if they had dropped their anchors thinking something was wrong when they had the Mayday call, how long would that have prevented them from hitting the bridge? I guess that's my question. Okay, not enough time. I believe it was, and I know this was in, okay, so I'm going to just show this really quick. I did see an article somewhere that said the depth there, but I don't see it now. But I'm actually going to show this. This is actually interesting too. This is from NBC News. They had So again, the ship had just left the port of Baltimore. And so you can see where it was, it was a pretty straight path. And then it completely turned, and this is where it hit that pylon, and this entire span of bridge collapsed. Oops, what is this doing? Yeah, 8 knots, and they said it was about 9 miles an hour. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, Tanro, good to see you. And then there was another this picture. I didn't realize this was here. I was going to read this article later. But this aerial is interesting too. All right, let me go back here. Okay, if they were in a shipping lane, there would be nothing on the bottom for anchor to lock onto. Got it. That's what I thought too, Bree. You could see where it took, like it took a pretty hard shift there.
And we have
but
a
again,
bit of a
I am
limb
not
here. Some
an expert.
Some family members, I'm told, of construction workers have been gathered at a nearby gas station just down the road, waiting for any word at all about whether their loved ones were safe. But we don't have any word on that at this point. We are awaiting a press conference we expect momentarily from Maryland state authorities, state police, we believe, and hoping for more information. And you're right, the numbers of potential victims has kind of been very, very up just all over the map. We've heard 7, we've heard up to 20. The problem is we don't know.
And notice they said we've heard 7, we've heard up to 20. Again, that's why I always wait for law enforcement or some other entity associated with the incident. So I'm hoping the Coast Guard has a press conference at some point, because I know they are leading the search and rescue at this time. So I was hoping they would give an update as well. Right, Lisa? The bridge did come down like it was made from matchsticks. That seems weird to me, to have a bridge like that in a shipping lane with freighters. It did. It just kind of went bloop. It's going to be interesting to find out
may have been on the bridge at 1:30 in the morning.
What they find investigating.
So yes, there are an awful lot of unanswered questions here, but just an unbelievable series of events with that bridge crumbling. And not only that, for us to have video of the moment of impact is really striking. As I mentioned, the NTSB will be leading the investigation, but we are still very much in the emergency rescue stage.
And I want to just mention, we showed a few moments ago a makeshift podium being set up. There it is. Officials are expected to be briefing.
All right, and I am going
in just a few moments, and we will continue to be here live, and we will carry that
press
live.
Forward just a little bit.
A little more information. As you said, there's much.
We're waiting for the specifics of that.
And we're going to hear from officials. We may get some of those answers as they step here to the microphones in Baltimore on this breaking news this morning, the collapse of the Key Bridge.
True Jedi, they said in a later press conference that no one aboard the cargo ship was injured. I agree, Kanukian. So sad for those who lost their lives and loved ones. Absolutely. Like, it's, and I can, I don't know anyone who lives in Baltimore, but I can only imagine how your heart sinks when you see something like this, and knowing that your loved one could be crossing that bridge or working on that bridge, no less. I did also read that they did rescue 2 people from the water. One of them refused medical help. The other is in the hospital in critical condition. And so again, they recovered 1 person. They are still looking for 6 others.
In Baltimore Harbor, let's listen.
Everybody good? Everybody ready? Okay, good morning. My name is Chief James Wallace. I'm the chief of the Baltimore City Fire Department. I'm joined this morning by our Mayor Brandon Scott, Council President Mosby, Councilwoman Porter, County Executive Johnny Oshevsky, and Baltimore County Fire Chief Joanne Rund. Our brief this morning will be an update on the search and rescue operation that's ongoing at this point. So at approximately 0140 hours this morning, our 911 center dispatched a call to the Baltimore City Fire Department for a report of a water rescue in the Patapsco River in the area of the Key Bridge. As units were responding, they began to receive numerous calls indicating multiple people in the water. At some point during that chain of events of calls, we began to receive indications that a ship may have struck the Key Bridge. We got further information through multiple calls that the Key Bridge, portions of the Key Bridge had actually collapsed. At about 0150 hours, our first unit arrived on scene and reported a complete collapse of the Key Bridge. We were also given information at that time that there were likely multiple people on the bridge at the time of the collapse, and that as a result, multiple people were in the water. We were able to remove 2 people from the water. 1 individual refused service and refused transport. Essentially, that person was not injured. However, there was another individual that's been transported to a local trauma center that is in very serious condition. At this time, we have multiple air assets from the Maryland State Police, as well as the Baltimore Police Department, as well as multiple marine assets from around the region, including Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, as well as multiple local and state police agencies, National Resources Police, BPD Special Ops Unit is in here, Maryland State Police is here. We have multiple resources. We are still very much in an active search and rescue posture at this point, and we will continue to be for some time. We have a large area that we have to search. This includes on the surface of the water, subsurface, as well as on the deck of the ship itself. We believe at this point we may be looking for upwards of 7 individuals. That's the latest information we have. However, what I will say is
and again, this press conference was from early this morning, so about 6:15 Eastern time. They have recovered 1 of those 7 people, which leaves 6 still unaccounted for.
The information that I'm giving you right now is as of right now. That's what we know right now. This is a very large incident. It involves a very large footprint. Multiple agencies are operating. Therefore, information is subject to change as we get more intel and as our crews work through the morning. Over the next 8 to 12 hours, you can expect to continue to see our air and maritime assets functioning out on the water and in the air above. We need to do damage assessment of the ship itself before we can board that ship. And we need to continue our subsurface search, which is including different types of sonar. We have side scan sonar. We have other sonar capabilities here. We have underwater UAVs that we're working with. And throughout the night, we've also been working with infrared technology, both from the air and on the water surface. So I'm going to wrap up here with just saying this continues to be a search and rescue operation. It continues to be a very dynamic operation with multiple local, state, and federal resources involved. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our mayor, Mayor Brandon Scott.
And I love
Thank
this
you.
mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Everyone, this is a unthinkable tragedy. We have to first and foremost pray for all of those who are impacted, those families. Pray for our first responders and thank them, all of them working together, city, state, local, to make sure that we are working through this tragedy. This is an ongoing active research that we're having right now. We're going to continue, as you heard from Chief Wallace, to throughout. As long as we have to be doing that, we will do it. But we have to be thinking about the families and people impacted, folks who we have to try to find and save. This is what our focus should be on right now. We're going to continue to work in partnership with every part of government to do everything that we can to get us through the other side of this tragedy. And with that, I'll turn it over to County Executive Olszewski.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I think we all awoke this morning to an unspeakable tragedy. As the mayor indicated, we know that there will be families and individuals impacted by this, regardless of what happens the rest of the way out. So I would just echo the mayor in lifting up prayers for those who are impacted, but also ask that our residents pray for our first responders. They have been on scene since very early in the morning, not only conducting initial search and rescue operations, but planning for additional ones as the sun comes up. And the work that they do cannot be understated. And I want to just thank them for all that they are doing and will do in the hours and days ahead. We know that we have a long road ahead, not just in the search and rescue, but in the fallout following this. I think we appropriately have our attention on the search and rescue efforts currently. And just here alongside our partners in the city to say that they have our full support, just as we want to thank our state partners for the resources they've offered up, as well as the federal partners who have already reached out. The mayor and I have talked to the governor. We've heard from the Secretary of Transportation. So collectively, we thank everyone for their thoughts, their well wishes. But again, this is a very active situation, and we want to just thank the chief and our teams for all the great work they're doing. And with that, I'll turn things back over to the chief.
Thank you, County Executive Olszewski. We'll do some Q&A right now. Now we're just going to go around, have everyone present their questions for this. Chief, can you tell us where the crew of the ship is? You also mentioned, too, that the 2 people were rescued. Who made the first 911 call? And there were reports that it was a crew on the deck of the ship working at that point. Can you confirm any of that?
The latest information we have on the crew of the ship is that they are still on board the ship. There's been comms between the ship crew and the Coast Guard. So as part of the overall operation, we communicate through the Coast Guard with the ship. And I'm sorry, your other questions?
There were 2 people taken. Who made the first 911 call?
I don't know who made that call yet.
Okay, and were there other workers on the deck of the ship or deck of the bridge at this point? We had heard that information. Can you confirm that?
We were being told there were workers on the bridge. We have yet to confirm that. We'll work with MDTA to obviously to get that information.
About how many cars were on that ship? Last question. On the deck of the bridge at the time it collapsed.
Don't have a number. I can tell you our sonar has detected the presence of vehicles submerged in the water. I don't have a count of that yet.
Chief, you mentioned upwards of 7 individuals that you're looking for. We've heard reports of as many as 20 individuals. Can you just paint a more clear picture about how many people actually fell into the water, how many people you might be looking to rescue, and also if you can give an idea of how many vehicles, although you might not have the answer, but really just the circumstances.
Yeah, I'll start with the last one. So I don't know how many vehicles yet. I know that we have detected the presence of vehicles. As far as the number between the 7 and 20, that's been a dynamic count throughout the morning, just given the fact that we haven't yet nailed that number down. We do believe that at least 7 are involved in that, at least 7 at this point. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I know you said the crew was accounted for the Coast Guard on deck. Do we know if any of the crew members were part of these at least 7 people that may have been in the water?
We do not.
Survivability and waters around this temperature is not very long. I want the shift focus to become more of a
So We'll be guided by our dive teams. We will determine what the temperature of the water is. The other issue that we have out there is this water is current influenced. So right now we think the tide is coming back in. That adds a bit of a challenge to us also. We can certainly dive in these conditions, but we have to take a lot of factors into play, right? The fact that there may be trauma involved, they have been in the water an extended period of time. But also remember, we're battling darkness. So, it's quite possible that we may have somebody there that we've not seen yet. And as they work closer to the debris field, they'll obviously make those determinations. But we're going to rely on the experts, which are our dive masters that are here, our dive team, to tell us when they believe we've reached that non-survivability point. Yes, sir.
Chief Wallace, was there any indication that there was a problem on the ship? Was it led in by tugboats at any day? Like anything that so far early on points you to something wrong?
We do not have that information with regard to the investigation. I would refer that to law enforcement. My focus since 1:40 this morning has been that rescue operation.
So far, there's been no indication that any kind of like an emergency dispatch came from that ship before?
I have no information about that, ma'am.
Have you been able to talk to the pilot, the American pilot on that bridge?
The pilot on the vessel?
Yeah.
We have not talked to the pilot on the vessel. The rescue personnel, the rescue operation, we have not interacted.
Just back over here.
I don't have age and I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have age and gender on either. One patient refused service, right? Really, they weren't injured. The second patient, however, was seriously injured and is at an area trauma center.
Are you including them in the at least seven people?
We don't know yet if they're part of that seven. Okay. The patient is injured severely enough that we've not been able to debrief that patient.
That seven number, did that come from people witnessing cars going down? Where did that number come? Or is that just from the sonar institute?
No, that was the initial information that we got as we were arriving on the scene, that number. And that number, again, as I said earlier, has fluctuated, right? But that seven has been a consistent number.
How many agencies are here assisting right now?
Oh, wow.
Dozens.
Yeah, dozens. I mean, locally, fire department wise, Baltimore County's here, Howard County's here, Hartford was here, PG was here, Anne Arundel, of course, Baltimore City. And a lot of those agencies are here by virtue of the fact that they may have specialized equipment that we need during an incident like this. So we're bringing in the equipment specific to the operation right now. And then even law enforcement agencies have a lot of the same marine ops equipment as we do. So given the incident is so big, we try to force multiply and just bring as many resources in as we can so that we can really blanket a large area for a search.
What about the hospital? What kind of resources are you bringing in to mitigate that?
We've not been able to confirm that we actually have an active fuel spill from the vessel. We've had odors of diesel fuel. The Maryland Department of the Environment is here, as well as the Coast Guard. So they would take leads on that as well. We hope as the sun comes up a little bit with the air assets that are up to get a much better picture, if we do have a fuel spill, what the impact has been so far. Yeah, Maryland State Police has been here. Foxtrot is also working this. There are 2 air resources right now. I don't know that we won't bring any more in, but right now they're the 2 primary. Air reconnaissance on something on the open water it's an invaluable resource. And we've been very fortunate to have it because as we put people out in the dark on the water to conduct searches, they have that degree of overwatch from those assets. So it's been an invaluable resource for us.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Executive, we're talking about search and rescue. I know that, and that's where the focus is right now. I was awakened with this news. We're all awakened with this news. I've seen the video. What do you make of the totality of this incident? What are you thinking about what you've seen and what this community's experienced?
Well, this is a tragedy that you can never imagine, right? And I was awake when Chief Wallace called me, but never would you think that you would physically see the Key Bridge tumble down like that. It looked like something out of an action movie. And you just think about, most importantly, and which is what we all should be thinking about right now, nothing but those families and people that are
I
impacted,
agree with
and those
him.
people who are risking their lives right now from not just Baltimore City and Baltimore County, but all over this state to try to save lives. That should be our focus, the preservation of life, because no one wants to see that happen, let alone someone in their family, someone that they know, be injured in an incident like this.
Mayor Brandon Scott, other officials, James Wallace, the fire chief of Baltimore City, with the breaking news this morning. It is on your screen. The Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore Harbor in the water this morning, the Patapsco River. And we've learned quite a bit from that news conference. I want to bring in Tom Costello, our correspondent who's at the scene. Most importantly, that
okay, and I'm going to stop that there. So I did go to the New York Times. And so they have, this article was updated 4 minutes ago. And it says, live update, search continues for 6 missing in Baltimore bridge collapse. Officials said the investigation was moving slowly while rescuers searched the water. Construction workers were on the bridge when a cargo ship rammed it after losing power. Let's see. Oh, that's why I was zoomed in. Okay, so let's see what... Okay, so they're going to kind of show the same thing, I guess. So when the ship, rammed into it. Oh, I guess this had volume. Oops, my bad, y'all. Let me just back it up a little bit.
The preliminary investigation points to an accident. We haven't seen any credible evidence of a terrorist attack.
Okay, so it says a Mayday call before the collision gave officials time to stop traffic at both ends of the bridge. And I do have the other press conference that we will watch. That was the initial press conference. So, oops, hold on one second. Having some technical difficulties here. Okay, there we go.
Literally, by being able to stop cars from coming over the bridge, these people are heroes. They saved lives last night.
Okay, so it says 8 construction workers were believed to be on the bridge when it fell. Jesus. 2 people were rescued and 6 remain missing as of Tuesday afternoon. Maryland's governor said the bridge was up to code at the time of its collapse. Maybe codes need to change. Here's what we know about the collapse. Federal investigators said they were beginning what could be a long search for answers about how a massive cargo ship struck a major bridge minutes after leaving the port of Baltimore early Tuesday. The ship's crew issued a warning that it had lost power, giving officials a brief chance to stop cars and try to evacuate the span before it fell into the river. 6 construction workers who had been fixing potholes on the Francis Scott Key Bridge remained missing on Tuesday afternoon as divers and other emergency workers on boats and helicopters searched for them. The NTSB, which is leading the inquiry, said its investigators were holding back while the search continued. So then 7 minutes ago, engineers are raising questions about piers supporting the bridge. The Key Bridge in Baltimore suffered a near-total collapse after a large container ship appeared to strike a critical component known as a pylon or pier, and much of the structure above it plummeted into the water below. Without the pier, they said, it was impossible for other components of the bridge to assume the load and keep the bridge standing. The piers on a bridge act as a kind of leg and are what is known as, quote, non-redundant parts of a bridge's structure. If a pier is somehow taken out, there is nothing to compensate for the missing structural support, and a collapse of the bridge is all but inevitable. Yet the collapse in Baltimore on Tuesday might have been avoided if the piers were adequately equipped with blocking devices with a self-explanatory name, fenders. In bridge engineering, fenders can be anything from simple pyramids of rocks piled around the pylons to major concrete rings padded with slats of wood designed to shield the bridge's supports from damage by water or collisions. It was not clear whether any such protection built around the bridge's piers was sufficient to guard against even a glancing hit from a 95,000 gross ton container vessel. The Maryland Transportation Authority did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the design of the piers or whether any fenders were installed around them. At a news conference on Tuesday afternoon, the chair of the NTSB, Jennifer Homendy, said protective structures would be part of the investigation into the bridge's collapse. There are some questions about the structure of the bridge, protective structure around the bridge or around the piers to make sure there isn't a collapse. We are aware of what a structure should have. Part of our investigation will be how was this bridge constructed. It will look at the structure itself. Should there be any sort of safety improvements? All of that will be part of our investigation. A widely circulated video of the Key Bridge failure drew attention to the disastrous collapse of the upper bridge structure, but engineers who reviewed the footage said that did not appear to be the culprit in the disaster. Instead, they said, the superstructure failure was most likely a secondary effect of the pier crumbling beneath it after the collision. Engineers who reviewed images of the bridge both before and after the collapse said no significant fender structures were visible. Only fairly small structures were visible in photos taken at the foot of the pier, and they did not appear to be substantial enough to be able to stop a large ship. They said the structures may have served another purpose entirely, like preventing water from scouring and undermining the pier's foundation. Okay, so let's see. That's all about the... Okay, so here's... Oop, let me just zoom out a little bit. So here's another aerial. So the ship left the port, and then it, was pretty straight. And then just about here, it veered off course. And that's when it made impact with... Okay, so it left around 1 a.m. and it hit the bridge at 1:28 a.m. as seen from surveillance. I agree, Sinner. I mean, it's tragic as it is, and we can be thankful that it wasn't rush hour. All right, and you said USA Today, so let's see. Oh, here, the ship. Oh, I didn't realize they had those little headers on the top. Okay, so it says the Dolly was just starting a 27-day voyage. The ship had spent 2 days in Baltimore's port before setting off. The Dolly was less than 30 minutes into its planned 27-day journey when the ship ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge on Tuesday. The ship, which was sailing under the Singaporean flag, was on its way to Sri Lanka and was supposed to arrive there on April 22nd. The Dolly, which is nearly 1,000 feet long, left the Baltimore port around 1 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. The ship had 2 pilots on board, according to a statement by its owners, Grace Ocean Investment. There were 22 crew members on board. There were no reports of any injuries. Before heading off on its voyage, the Dolly had returned to the United States from Panama on March 19th, harboring in New York. It then arrived on Saturday in Baltimore, where it spent 2 days in the port. Maersk, the shipping giant, said in a statement on Tuesday that it had chartered the vessel, which was carrying Maersk cargo. No Maersk crew or personnel were on board. The statement said, adding that the company was monitoring the investigations being carried out by the authorities and by Synergy Group, the company that was operating the vessel. We are horrified by what has happened in Baltimore, and our thoughts are with all of those affected. The Dali was built in 2015 by the South Korea-based Hyundai Heavy Industries. The following year, the ship was involved in a minor incident when it hit a stone wall at the port of Antwerp. The Dali sustained damage at the time, but no one was injured. So okay, so here I clicked on that link and it brought me here, Vessel Finder. And this says video. Oh, that's just bringing me to that, I guess. So it says the mega container ship Dali eluded with berth at Port of Antwerp during unmooring maneuvers for leaving the port. The incident happened in good weather and was caused by a mistake of the master and pilot on board. Oh, I just made that. The container carrier had substantial stern momentum, which caused collision with the stone wall of the quay. Following the incident, the vessel Dali suffered sufficient damages in the stern and transom. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. The container ship remained afloat, but has some breaches near the waterline and will need of repairs. The berth was also seriously damaged and closed for cargo handling operations due to safety reasons. The container ship Dali was detained and docked to Dwergendok, Antwerp, where it will be repaired and fully inspected before release to return in operations. The vessel will have some delay from the time schedule. Fortunately, during the accident, there were no injured people and water pollution. The container ship Dali has an overall length of 300 meters, molded beam of 48 meters, maximum draft of 11 meters. Okay, that's just the... So again, it was built in 2015 by Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea. The owner of the container ship, Dali Greek company, Ocean Bulk Maritime, but currently vessel is chartered by Maersk Line. Video of the elision of container ship Dali can be seen here. Oh, and of course, the video's not available, but here is a photo of what happened. There's the ship. Here's oh dear. Okay, so I guess it, yeah. There we go. All right, so let me go back to, and thank you for that, Heather. I appreciate that. Let me go back to YouTube. So this is the last press conference that officials had. And this was about, I think it was about noontime Eastern. I don't know for sure exactly, but it was around.
We are breaking into coverage right now to give you an update on the Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore.
And we are standing by right now for a news conference with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Let's go right now.
This morning, our state is in shock. And I want to take this moment to speak directly to the people of our state. To our first responders, I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of your courage, I'm in awe of your strength. I'm in awe of everything you do for each and every one of us. You saw a crisis and you said, what can I do to help? And our response teams are doing everything in our power to rescue and recover the victims of this collapse, literally as we speak. People who, as we speak, are out there, are divers, are air assets. People who right now are working to save lives and are doing it because the state asked. And we will update the public as the work continues. To our partners inside and outside of government, I know this has been a long night. We started coordinating immediately after the Key Bridge collapse. We've been standing together every step of the way, from our county leadership, to our city leadership, to our state leadership, to our federal leadership. And I'm grateful to call each and every one of you not just colleagues, but I'm grateful to call you friends. And to the people of Baltimore, and each and every one of the 6.3 million Marylanders who call our state home, I recognize that many of us are hurting right now. I recognize that many of us are scared right now. And so I want to be very clear about where everything stands. We are still investigating what happened, but we are quickly gathering details. The preliminary investigation points to an accident. We haven't seen any credible evidence of a terrorist attack. Our administration is working closely with leaders from all levels of government and society to respond to this crisis, and not but just by addressing the immediate aftermath, but also by building a state that is more resilient and a state that's more safe. That is our pledge, and that's our commitment, and we're going to keep that commitment. And lastly, to the victims of this tragedy and their loved ones, all of our hearts are broken. We feel your loss. We're thinking of you, and we will always be thinking of you. We pray for the construction workers who are on the Key Bridge, and we pray for everyone who has been touched by this tragedy, and their families, and all of their loved ones. But Maryland, we will get through this, because that is the Maryland spirit, and that's what Maryland is made of. We are Maryland tough, and we are Baltimore strong.
And just to interrupt that quickly, someone had asked earlier about the depth of the water, and the New York Times did have an article where it stated the waters where the bridge collapsed are about 50 feet deep. So 50 feet deep.
So in the face of heartbreak, we come together. We embrace one another, and we come back stronger. That's what we've always done. That's what we'll continue to do. And that's what we're going to get done together. And we're going to pray for Baltimore. And I'd like to turn this over to Senator Van Hollen, who's done a remarkable job in our fellow delegation in providing support. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Governor. As the governor said, we come together. We come together in Baltimore. We come together in Maryland. First of all, our hearts go out to all those who are on the bridge and their loved ones. We pray for them. Our gratitude goes out to the first responders who, as we speak, are out there continuing to conduct search and rescue operations. I want to thank the governor, the mayor, county executive, all the people gathered here as part of Team Baltimore and Team Maryland. And the federal government is with them as a partner. The Coast Guard, as we speak, is also part of this mission. Coast Guard cutters, Coast Guard aviation assets. I spoke twice today with Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg has pledged that they will do everything they can to very quickly release emergency response funds for this important project. The National Highway Transportation Administration administrator is on his way to Baltimore if he's not here already. They will be releasing those early funds once all the parties are fully engaged. Second, the National Transportation Safety Board. I talked to the chair this morning. She and her team will be conducting an investigation of what happened. And finally, the Army Corps of Engineers, naval assets for looking below the surface and clearing. All of this is going to be part of the effort. The governor is leading Team Maryland. The mayor and the county executive, of course, Team Baltimore. But I'm just here to say, together with Ben Cardin, Senator Cardin, and Congressman Fume and others, the federal government is your partner in this effort. Thank you. And again, to the people of our state and the people of this great city, we're with you. We love you. We will get through this together. Thank you, Governor.
Morning again, Paul Wiedefeld, Secretary of Transportation. Just a few updates since our meeting this morning. The crew that was out there working was basically repairing potholes. Just so you understand, that had nothing to do with a structural issue at all in the facility. At this time, one person has been rescued insofar, and our efforts continue in terms of that. Engineers are on site right now, determining both some of the structural issues, obviously some of the debris field, and we'll start to work that, but we'll work hand in hand with the NTSB before we take any further action in that area. With that, I did want to introduce the FBI for a few comments as well.
Hello, my name is Bill Del Bagno. I'm the special agent in charge of the Baltimore field office. First and foremost, I want to say that our hearts go out to everyone that is impacted by this tragedy, especially the victims and their families. On behalf of the FBI, I would like to say that we are with you, we're with Baltimore, and we're with the partners every step of the way. The FBI, on very first, looking at and assessing this matter from an investigative standpoint, I want to be clear that there is no specific or credible information to suggest that there are ties to terrorism in this incident. The FBI has been part of this response from the beginning. We came within 1 hour to the command post and quickly lashed up with our very strong partners all along the way. We will bring whatever resources that the FBI has to bear. We've already brought our crisis response, our victim services, and just recently, our underwater search evidence recovery teams are on site. And we will continue to provide all those resources as long as it takes. And as the investigation goes on, we will take it to its logical conclusion along with our partners. To the people of Baltimore, to the public, I ask you to be patient as we go through this and as information becomes available to us. And lastly, I want to say thank you. Thank you to our partners. Thank you to everyone who in the FBI and counts on the FBI. We will always bring what we need to the people of Baltimore, and we are with you. I'd next like to introduce the Coast Guard.
Good morning. The Coast Guard is still actively searching at this time. We are using response boat crews from 2 of our local Coast Guard stations, one of our helo crews from an air station in Atlantic City, and also one of our cutter crews on one of our 87-foot patrol boats. We will continue to work with our local, state, and federal partners during this tragedy. Thank you.
Governor,
Governor, as far as you are aware, was the collapse of that bridge inevitable as that ship hit that part of the bridge?
No, we're still in the process of investigating exactly what happened. So we don't have any further details about whether or not it was inevitable or not.
But no structural issue with the bridge?
No, there was. In fact, the bridge was actually fully up to code, so we have no further information about what happened during that time.
Governor, is all shipping in and out of the port now stopped completely? And do you have any estimate very early on as to how long it will be before shipping can resume to the Port of Baltimore?
Yeah, we don't have any estimates on timeline because right now our exclusive focus is on saving lives. Our exclusive focus is on search and rescue.
Could you give us a better sense for the number? Because we'd heard, I know Mr. Wiedefeld said one had been rescued, but earlier from Baltimore we heard that 2 have been rescued. Can you tell us the total numbers we're talking about that you're searching for, and how many have been rescued?
Well,
there are 8 individuals. 6 are being searched for right now. 1 is was taken to the hospital, and 1 is not in the hospital that we're speaking to.
So 6 unaccounted for.
Yes.
And does that involve individuals that may have been in vehicles that went in the water? Do we know?
We believe it's the construction crew only.
Okay, so we don't think there's anyone in vehicles in the water.
No, we do not believe so.
Okay, what's that question?
Okay, so that's interesting. So the reporter had said, so you don't believe there's anyone in those vehicles? And he said, no, we do not. So were the vehicles not part of the collapse? That's interesting to me.
Right here. Take this question here.
Governor, 2 questions. How quickly did you find out about what happened here, and what was your reaction when you heard the scale of what occurred at that bridge earlier?
Well, I mean, I think it was probably within minutes of everything, less than an hour, when I know that my phone first rang, and first from the mayor of Baltimore and also from our chief of staff, and it was we know the Key Bridge. I've ridden over the Key Bridge countless times. So many of us know the Key Bridge because it is our normal commute. This is a place that is a normal commute route for over 30,000 Marylanders every single day. And so to hear the words that the Key Bridge has collapsed, it's shocking and heartbreaking. And immediately the first thought and the first ideas go back to what happened to the people, what was the impact on human life. But for every single one of us who are Marylanders, the words that the Key Bridge is gone, it still shakes us, because for 47 years, that's all we've known. And so this is not just unprecedented from what we're seeing and what we're looking at today. It's heartbreaking.
Governor, can you confirm that the crew on the ship alerted authorities that it lost propulsion and was in trouble?
We can confirm that the crew notified authorities of a power issue. Yes.
And that they had lost power on the ship.
Yes.
Was there any ability to shut down the bridge before it happened? I'm going to take the question right here.
Sorry, can you please repeat the numbers? Before you were looking for 7 people and you had been rescued, and now you are looking for 6 people, but 1 has been rescued, so 3 people has been rescued in total. Only 2.
Total of 8. Excuse me. A total of 8. 1 rescued in hospital. 1 not in hospital, but it is, we have communicated with that person, and then 6 that we are searching for.
And all construction workers working on the potholes? Was all 8 of them?
Yes, they were all related to the construction program.
Right, so
Yes.
we heard that multiple vehicles went into the water. Any word on how many vehicles went into the water and the condition of those people that were in the vehicle?
Not at this time.
All right, we're going to shift over here. Was there any way to shut down the bridge? Was there enough time for that distress call to trigger something like that?
Now, the thing that we know is that even as the boat was coming in, we had a ship that was coming in at 8 knots, so coming in at a very rapid speed. We do know that the investigation is currently going on, but I have to say I'm thankful for the folks who once the warning came up and once notification came up that there was a mayday, who literally by being able to stop cars from coming over the bridge, These people are heroes. They saved lives last night.
The focus is on rescue now and humanity. But looking forward, is there any vision for how long it could possibly take to remove the wreckage, to rebuild, how it could possibly be done? Can you look into the future at all at this point?
This is going to be a long-term build. It's going to be a build that's going to require every facet and every aspect of our society. It is something that I can tell you, we are going to get this done. We are going to make sure that this is not just rebuilt, but that we are going to rebuild in a way that remembers the people who this tragedy has impacted, and also do it in a way that that honors the community that it serves. But right now, I could not give you any form of estimate on timing or cost. Right now, my and all of our exclusive focus is we're just trying to save lives.
Can the mayor talk on the state of emergency locally, please?
Yes, thank you. Listen, we know the governor issued a state of emergency, but we at the local level felt the need to do that too, because there may be some things that we have to encumber with our fire department and other agencies that we'll be able to pull down support for as we all work together, again, as we're focused right now on saving lives and working through this unspeakable tragedy.
In the interim, I know that there's obviously the focus is on the rescue and the recovery, but this is such an important thoroughfare here in Baltimore for drivers, people trying to get around. How are they going to be able to manage while that is also going on?
Yeah, so we've also already been in touch with people about alternative routes and ways people can navigate now that this tragedy has happened. And I don't know, Secretary, if you want to speak to that as well.
Just to give you a sense of scale, roughly about 35,000 people, they use that facility. About double that use the Harbor Tunnel, and double that again use the Fort McHenry Tunnel. So basically, we don't have those two other options. We'll make sure that we have as much personnel out there to deal with any incidents, because as you know, that can cause the backups very quickly. And we will basically put out a lot of communication on different alternatives. We're also looking at transit alternatives as well.
What role will the legislature play in this response? What role will the legislature play in this response? Are there any policies, any state funding that's going to be freed up in the coming weeks?
Oh yeah, no. So we are in fact, we have our Senate president here. We have members of the legislature here. The legislature is going to have a role in all of this, as will our local elected officials, as will state officials, as will the federal government. Everybody is going to have a role in terms of how we think about the rebuild.
Governor, how long do you expect shipping to be closed down through the port? Do you have any estimate in terms of the port here?
We don't at this point.
But
We
no
don't at this
ships
point.
are going in or out at this time.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have an estimate on timeline as of yet. Our focus really is right now on just make sure we're saving lives.
One last question. That are currently docked at the port, are they able to get out at all or no?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The ships the vessels that are currently docked at the port, are they able to get out or no?
The one that's captured under the is that
Still at port.
Oh yes, that one's still at port. Yes.
We'll take one
Governor,
last
one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the ship being guided out by tugs, firstly? And secondly, did you just say that it issued a mayday in enough time that you were able to stop all traffic from entering both sides, so that the only casualties we expect are the workers on the bridge?
Yes, ma'am. So the investigation is still going on. So we're going to have all the full details and also all the full details about the timeline and the TikTok that took place. But we're thankful that between the Mayday and the collapse, that we had officials who were able to begin to stop the flow of traffic, so more cars would not end up on the bridge. And I can.
But there were some on the bridge, or not? Were there any
During the collapse?
Yeah, were there some on the bridge? There have been reports that have been sonar that have detected vehicles at the bottom of the water. So as well as the 8 people, there could still be people trapped inside or potentially have died in vehicles. Is that correct?
I think, well, the investigation is still going on to find out exactly how many people in what situation. But the thing that we do know is that many of the vehicles were stopped before they got onto the bridge, which saved lives in a very, very heroic way.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
We'll have another update later. Thank you.
This is a huge detail. We don't know how many vehicles.
We were watching a news conference there with Maryland's mayor.
Okay, so let me, before we watch the video of the footage, I want to go back to the New York Times, or actually, yeah, the New York Times, because They did add a few updates. So, and some of this I may have read before, but much of it is updated. So, federal investigators said they were beginning what could be a long search for answers about how a massive cargo ship struck a major bridge minutes after leaving the port of Baltimore. The ship's crew issued a warning that it had lost power, giving officials a brief chance to stop cars and try to evacuate the span before it fell into the river. 6 construction workers who had been fixing potholes on the span remained missing on Tuesday afternoon as divers and other emergency workers on boats and helicopters searched for them. And here we go. So I'm actually, from there, I'm going to go to this article. So this was from WTOP News. And it was updated at 5:32 p.m. Hey, Ash. So it says, more than 12 hours after the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed early Tuesday morning, 6 members of a road crew who were on the Baltimore Bridge at the time it was rammed by a cargo ship remain missing. A senior executive at the company that employed the construction workers, Bronner Builders, said Tuesday afternoon they were presumed dead, given the water's depth and length of time since the crash. During an afternoon news conference, the governor did not address the remarks from the company, insisting that every possible resource is being deployed to aid in the search. Quote, "This is still very much an active search and rescue mission, and there is not a single resource that we will hold off on deploying. I have already authorized the deployment of everything from air, land, and sea resources to make sure that this search and rescue operation is carried out to its fullest intent." 2 other workers were rescued. Their crew was repairing potholes on the bridge when the container ship slammed into it. At an address from the White House, President Biden said the federal government is working with local authorities to help with the search and rescue efforts and pledged the federal government would pay for the cost of rebuilding. Okay. All right, so that's just some other thing. But I wanted to talk about the construction company itself that had talked about their workers. Okay, so I did read that part. The people who blocked traffic, quote, undoubtedly saved lives. Okay, so here the NTSB's chairwoman, Jennifer Hammond, said investigators were seeking to acquire recorders from the ship, but the agency did not board the vessel on Tuesday to avoid getting in the way of the search and rescue effort. Despite the ship's mayday call, the road repair crew remained on the bridge with its vehicles parked on the span. 2 construction workers were rescued from the water, and one went to the hospital early on Tuesday morning. He had been released by Tuesday afternoon. And so again, everyone on the ship was accounted for. An inspection of the Dali last year at a port in Chile reported that the vessel had a deficiency related to, quote, propulsion and auxiliary machinery, end quote. The inspection, conducted on June 27th at the port of San Antonio, specified that the deficiency concerned gauges and thermometers. A spokesman for the Dali's owners declined to comment on the report. The bridge collapse will affect the national supply chain because cargo must be diverted to other ports for now. The path to normalcy will not be easy, it will not be quick, and it will not be inexpensive. And again, the bridge was named after Francis Scott Key, the Maryland-born author of the American national anthem, The Star-Spangled Banner. The structure opened in 1977. Some 30,000 commuters drive on it each day. All right, so let me go to So this is a replay of the, I call it a traffic cam. I don't know what it is. But you can see the barge will come into view momentarily. This pier here is what it hits, the one on the left. The construction crew was in this area, so on this part of the bridge. And let me, oh, I do have it slowed down. So it does still look like it's sped up. But you can see cars going. You can see, here's a tractor trailer. And again, the construction crew is just in this area where my cat is. So here's the barge. The power goes out. And again, cars continue to go across the bridge. You can see them going in both directions. Power comes back on. You got the thick smoke. And this is about when it hits that pier. When power loss number 2, it then hits the pier. Power comes back on, and the bridge then collapses. And again, cars are continuing to go across the bridge. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show, well, maybe 2 more videos, but the one that I want to show is that of the witnesses, so those who were in that area during the collapse. Southern Gal, what I had read is that it was consumer products. That's all I've heard about what was on the actual ship. I know, K-Braze, you never know. I know it's Southern Gal. I agree with you. I hope they check the cars that are in the water. You never know. There could be a person that has no family, no one looking for them.
Good morning. And now that the sun is up, we just want to show you what we are seeing in the Patapsco here, in my angle here. And I want to start, if you can go into the ship there, and you can see just that massive ship in the middle of the water. And you can see the remnants of the bridge. And again, this is from the Baltimore County viewpoint. And the first thing I noticed when the sun started to go up is just over to the side of that, you can see the ramp where.
And I wonder why they use those piers in the middle. Again, I'm not an engineer, but you see how they have these, I guess they're like concrete posts, I guess. Why would they go from, because that both sides of the bridge with these concrete pillars remain standing. The middle part that had those pylars or piers is what collapsed. Yeah, pylons. So, okay, so those are called pylons too. So why, my question is, why did they change from these, which clearly withstood the impact, to those, you know, the other ones in the middle?
Where that was leading to the bridge, and you can see there's no more bridge there. It's just heartbreaking. You can see just where it ends. You can see what's left of the Key Bridge. An absolutely incredible view. We've talked about the challenges: diesel fuel in the water, silt, the tide, the cold temperatures. At least we've got daylight now. I want to bring in a neighbor here in this community, Jeremy, and you live fairly close by. Tell me, what did you see and hear? Again, this is around 1:30 this morning. Were you sleeping? Did it wake you up?
I was sleeping, and then it kind of sounded like we have a lot of airplanes that go across, so it sounded like that at first, and then we felt the vibration, and then it was just like a really vigorous vibration.
Are you connected?
Yes. Now, I mean, you could tell the bridge was gone this morning, but now it's tragic, man.
Yeah. How many times would you say you've crossed the Key Bridge in your life?
I mean, I just crossed it yesterday twice for work.
It makes you think a lot, right? I mean, you never know what could happen.
I mean, yeah, but life goes on. But I just pray for the people that are involved.
Yeah, and just describe, even the conditions. It's cold out here. I mean, can you even imagine what they're having to go through? And they said they're going to keep, searching. They're going to stay on this until they have gotten everyone out that they can. But it's got to be extraordinarily difficult.
I can't imagine what they go through. I mean, I have first responders in my family, but I tell you what, they'll get the job done. That's all I know.
And tell me, when you were jolted, what did you think it was? Did you look at your phone right away? I mean, how long did it take you to realize?
I didn't look at my phone, but I did run outside because I thought a plane crashed.
Oh, so this must be his footage. So I had seen this on a different video on TikTok. And so this, I'm going to assume, is his footage from the bridge because it was a different angle.
Sounded that, it was that harsh.
That loud, yeah. So I was like, man, that's close. So I went and looked around, didn't see anything, and then went back inside, and my uncle actually called me and said the Key Bridge collapsed. So
I mean, it's such a talk to me about the importance of that, bridge too. I mean, I think I read a statistic, roughly 30,000 cars a day. It's also where a lot of the hazardous chemicals go through because they can't go through the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, even with plumbing, I'm in plumbing and HVAC right now. So even with plumbing, you can't take acetylene tanks through the tunnel. So it's going to be a big strain on not only just day to day, but tradesmen's lives as well.
I heard you say you used to fish under there. I mean, just to think of that massive steel structure, how big it is, and something that can cause it to collapse.
I mean, it's baffling. I mean, I can't fish under there no more, but man, I don't know, the force that it took to do that, and it doesn't look like the ship's damaged at all. So
massive ship, yeah. It's just crazy. It's hard to even describe because I know people are seeing aerial views and different angles of this, but just from right here where we are on the edge of the water, and we're a little bit far away, but it's just incredible.
It is incredible. It's devastating to look at. To think something's been there since 1977. Actually, the anniversary just passed on the 24th.
Yeah, a few days ago.
So, to think something's been there 40 plus years or whatever. I'm not good at math, so don't quote me on
47 years, yeah. It's just, it's hard to fathom, right? I mean, people are saying, even I think I heard the mayor say it's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what it's like. One of my neighbors came up and they said it was like an action movie, It's something you feel like you're in Hollywood, you're not. It's not real. It's a dream. So.
And sadly, it's real, and they're, right now they're trying to save these people.
Yeah, I mean, I hope every single one of them's okay. I prayed for them. And I'll continue to pray until they're found or okay. So that's all we can do.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. And again, we know that the crews haven't been interviewed. They're still on the ship from what we understand. And we've been showing you this angle. I want to show it to you again, if you don't mind, just where we are in relation to the port. And you can see the port is right next to us. So the Dolly had left a little bit less than a half hour before the collision, left the port, went out into the Patapsco, and then didn't make it very far, and rammed into.
And I wonder how far it was, because it doesn't look very far at all from where it left the port. Again, it's hard to decipher based on, the angle they're at, but it couldn't have been very far from the port.
To one of those support piers, and that's where it sits right now, and that's where the rescue efforts are focused to try to make sure if there's anyone still alive in that water, that they can get them out, that they can save lives. Again, just an incredible scene here from Baltimore County as we continue to digest the news that the Key Bridge collapsed this morning, just around 1:30 this morning. And we want to talk to another neighbor here. You live here in Turner Station.
I live in Sparrows Point.
Sparrows Point. So tell me, what did you see and hear this morning?
Well, I was actually asleep, and I saw it on social media. So my dad was actually calling, because my dad takes the Key Bridge like every single day to and from work.
Wow.
And he just took the Key Bridge, like getting over to work.
Just before this happened.
And he was calling the house because no one was answering. And I'm just like, who's calling at like 1 a.m? It's my dad. And he was all like, the Key Bridge, the Key Bridge. And I just like, it's crazy because my dad takes that bridge and I was about to take that bridge.
I think it's something that all of us think about.
Yeah.
And now, look behind you. I mean, just incredible. Looking at that, what's in your heart?
Crying.
And like like Lisa had said earlier, it just completely, I mean, it's, and it makes, well, for me, it makes me wonder, like, I mean, granted, it was a big ship that hit it, but just to disassemble that quickly, it's bizarre.
Like, I've been crying. But like, it's, I don't know, like, I really do pray for Baltimore and Dundalk, and because this bridge it meant a lot to me, like growing up around here, especially in Sparrows Point. I've taken this bridge like to everywhere, vacations, like.
Is it hard to be here right now and look at this and see just how it's just not even there, and you can see the ramp that goes up to it, and then there's nothing. I mean, you must be. I only think a lot of people who take the bridge, you're like, I can't even fathom being on that bridge and having it collapse.
Like, I want to say it's like it's glad to be in the middle of the night. Like, I really do hope they find more people in the water, and it wasn't during rush hour, because the rush hour would have been much, much worse.
It would have been. I mean, describe in the morning when you're taking that bridge, it can get pretty crowded.
Yeah, I don't take the bridge in the morning, but I know, like, my dad, he takes it in the middle of the night to basically, like, right in the morning, because that's what time he gets off. So I imagine him going over that bridge at, like, 11 a.m., like, it's got to be crazy.
I'm sure you're going to hug your dad when you see him.
I am. The biggest hug.
I mean, what do you think about just what are some questions that you have? I think it's important. I know that the focus right now is on the search and rescue, but it's important to find out how this could even happen. I mean, we've seen ships, going under the bridge, but you never think about this.
I never even thought about like a ship actually hitting the bridge, because even just like standing here looking at it, like, ships go under the bridge all the time. So like, I just don't understand how it happened.
Yeah. And it's a massive ship, as you can see. I mean, those containers just
And like that aerial view, like it is like a massive ship. Massive. And I did see, just quickly, Southern Gal asking about the trip of the ship. So, okay, so it was 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes into its planned 27-day journey. It was on its way to Sri Lanka. It was supposed to arrive on April 22nd. And it had returned to the United States from Panama on March 19th, harboring in New York. It then arrived on Saturday in Baltimore, where it spent 2 days in the port. Hey, Liza.
Stacked up, it's even hard to really describe how large it is. And then, your heart has to go out for anybody who was on that bridge when it was struck.
Yeah, the workers that are on the bridge, like my prayers definitely go out to them and their families. Anybody that was driving over the bridge my heart goes out to everybody, and for the search and rescue team, because anything else can happen out there, and I'm just hoping it doesn't.
Now, how is this going to affect you and your family? Because you got to find another way around too.
Yeah, we'll have to probably go through the tunnels.
Yeah.
Or take 695 all the way around. But even then, taking 695 is already traffic.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna be more traffic. Just something you got to leave earlier.
And then, what was your reaction when you saw the video? I know a lot of people have looked at it. I looked at it several times. It just happened so fast.
Yeah, it was I was comparing it to one of my science projects, when we used to build popsicle sticks and see what the weight can hold. It went down so quickly.
It's almost just unimaginable how fast it all happened.
Yeah, it happened really fast, extremely fast.
Well, thank you, Kendra.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and sorry under these circumstances, but thank you for sharing your perspective. And I know a lot of people right now have a lot of the same thoughts. I mean, just, as Kendra said, her dad had just crossed the bridge, and thankfully he made it, but there's so many others right now that they are searching for right here at the Key Bridge.
I want to now show you what.
And I'm going to just skip over quickly to an AP article that was updated 24 minutes ago. And this is 24 minutes ago. Trade Association director says ship's pilot tried to slow down. The head of the Trade Association for Maritime Pilots says the pilot of the ship that caused the Baltimore Bridge collapse tried to slow it down before the crash. Clay Diamond, executive director of the American Pilots Association, said he has been in close contact with officials from the Association of Maryland Pilots who described to him what happened as the ship approached the bridge. He said when the ship was a few minutes out, it lost all power, including to its engines. The pilot immediately ordered the rudder hard to port to keep the ship from turning right and ordered the port anchor be dropped, which it was. The pilot also contacted a dispatch office to get the bridge shut down. Diamond said widely circulated images show the ship's lights turning off and then back on, sparking questions about whether the vessel had regained power. But, he said, the emergency generators that kicked in turned the lights back on, but not the ship's propulsion. Every foreign flag ship coming into U.S. waters must have a state-licensed pilot on board. Pilots board the ships before they enter the local waterways and take, quote, navigational control of the ship, meaning they give orders for the ship's speed and direction. These are among the most highly trained mariners in the world, Diamond said. Let's see if, I'm not sure. I think a lot of this is probably, okay, so here's another update. One person involved in the Baltimore Bridge collapse released from the hospital. So it says one person involved in the Baltimore Bridge collapse has been discharged from the hospital. Dr. David Efron, the chief of trauma at the R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, at the University of Maryland Medical Center did not comment on the nature or severity of the patient's injuries. The hospital has not released the patient's name. Oh, okay, so this is what Heather was saying earlier. Colleague says missing construction workers were on a break when bridge collapsed. A fellow construction company employee says he was told his missing coworkers were on a break and some were sitting in their trucks when a Baltimore bridge collapsed early Tuesday after being struck by a container ship. Bronner Builders employee Jesus Campos says he learned about the disaster from a coworker and immediately worried about colleagues he knew were working on the bridge. When he told me that, they came to mind and I was praying to God that nothing had happened to them, Campos said, speaking in Spanish. It is so hard for me to describe. I know that a month ago I was there, and I know what it feels like when the trailers pass. Imagine knowing that it is falling. It is so hard. One would not know what to do. And this is a satellite image provided by Maxar Technologies. Shows the section of bridge that collapsed with the cargo ship at center. Again, this was, I had read this in a different article. 6 construction workers are presumed to be dead by their employer. Oh my gosh. So it says officers were about to alert the construction crew when bridge collapsed. Radio traffic obtained from the broadcastify.com archive indicates officers were just about to alert a construction crew when a major bridge in Baltimore collapsed after being hit by a container ship that had lost power. The Maryland Transportation Authority first responder radio traffic includes a dispatcher putting out a call saying a ship had lost its steering ability and asking officers to stop all traffic. It took officers less than 2 minutes to stop traffic on the bridge. One officer who had stopped traffic radioed that he was going to drive onto the bridge to notify the construction crew once a second officer arrived. But seconds later, a frantic officer radioed that the bridge had collapsed. The 6 people still unaccounted for were part of the construction crew, which was filling potholes on the bridge. And that poor officer who I cannot. All right, and we don't, I'm gonna remove your comment, Princess. We don't do theories. We go on facts here. But I definitely agree that everyone needs to pray on it because there are still 6 people who are missing that are being missed by their families, and conspiracy can happen later, but definitely not on my channel. There's plenty of those channels out there. Let's see. I think that's probably... Okay, so we did talk about the deficiency. So it says June inspection identified problem with ship's machinery, but September examination found no deficiencies. So it says the Dolly, owned by Grace Ocean PTE, has been inspected at least 27 times at ports around the world since it was built in 2015. An inspection at a port in Chile in June identified a problem with the ship's propulsion and auxiliary machinery. We had read that before. The most recent inspection listed for the Dolly was conducted by the U.S. Coast Guard in New York on September 13th, 2023. According to the Aquasis data, the standard examination didn't identify any deficiencies. A July 2016 inspection in Belgium determined hull damage had impaired the Dolly's seaworthiness after it struck berth used for mooring vessels at the port of Antwerp. And again, we had talked about that. And then the other updates are older that we've seen. So we're just going to finish up this video of witnesses, and then I'll give some closing thoughts.
What it looks like this morning as the sun is now rising. Understand we are less than a quarter of a mile away from where this collapse happened here. You see that we still have law enforcement here blocking off the area, but when you look down, you can see pieces of the bridge now this morning. Understand that this is a bridge that was here since 1977, and now it is completely gone. 1.6 miles of this bridge gone. This is something that was so impactful for our community in Baltimore area. Understand 31,000 vehicles will travel on this daily, according to MDTA, and now this is no longer an option. Keep in mind, this means that the 695 loop that so many would use is completely gone now. We understand that a lot of trucks would use this area, especially since they could not go through the tunnels, especially if they had hazardous material that they need to transport, and now that is no longer an option. Police are still advising people to please not be in this area. They are deterring you. Go through 895, 95 instead. 695 is no longer available. It's something we never thought we would ever have to say, where Francis Scott Key Bridge is completely gone. Reporting live, I'm Alexis Davila for WJZ.
Joining me now is Donald Heimbuch. He is a witness to this collapse. Donald, thank you for being with us. I imagine this has been just such an emotional and difficult day for you and so many others in this community. Tell us a bit about what you saw and heard this morning.
Good morning. We were awakened by what sounded like a rolling thunder coming through, and it felt like an earthquake. When the bridge came down, it did crash into the water, and it made quite a noise, and it did create a vibration that went through the community. This community where I live is the closest community to the Key Bridge. So it's actually right behind me. And I had previously been a chief of operations in Baltimore.
And so, yeah, so I'm wondering, I mean, and I'm going to actually, I wrote it down to look up, but why did they use these piers, as they call them, instead of those tall concrete pillars? I mean, is it aesthetic? Is it because of aesthetics? Because it looks prettier? I just wonder, could it have changed things?
City for the fire department. So I turned on my radio and found out where the incident was going on, and I went to the scene where the command post was being set up to watch that ensue, and just got caught up into watching that. But as far as the impact, a lot of the people here can't get to work over the Key Bridge, and they're going to have to take detours several miles out of their normal route.
I just wonder, especially because of your experience with the fire department, Donald, have you seen anything like this before?
Several times we had a train explosion and derailment in the Howard Street Tunnel in downtown Baltimore some years back, and that created an impact on the economic ability of the city. But this is a whole different animal, and yet very serious. But it's something that we actually train for. We train for things like this, and the multi-agency response and the way the teams came together was very impressive. Very impressive.
And can you talk about how the community is responding? I imagine, it must be quite a frantic feeling to wake up and to see and hear about something like this, as you say, just down the road from your home.
Well, we depend on the media to help us out and to tell us the best routes to take to detour around the emergency up there. And I think the media's done a pretty good job on that, having been through these experiences before. But the media played a big part in getting the information out to the folks who have to go to work. So I think even though it's really a disaster up there, I think people are dealing with it in a very reasonable way, responsible way, and in many ways, the ways that we're trained to deal with things.
And, you know, you mentioned a bit about the location here. I want to ask more about that. There is the bridge. There is also the port. These two are very, as I understand, important areas, not just to the local community, but the greater economy.
Yeah, so we have 2 cruise ships that go in and out of Baltimore. So there are 2 cruise ships that are coming back to where we're not sure. And the backup, the marine traffic has already taken place. If you go onto any of the marine mapping sites, you'll see where the ships are just backing up in the bay. They have to make turns, go back to another port. So it's...
So, I mean, that's just that vantage point right there is just, it's just so sad.
And rail lines are affected, and hazmat. The hazmats that are going through the Baltimore area have to take a detour around the Baltimore Beltway as opposed to going over the Key Bridge. So that puts a lot of time and expense into their operations.
And I wonder, Donald, because you seem like you're very active in the community. You said you have this experience with the fire department. You know, did people come out of their homes in the middle of the night when this happened? Were you getting phone calls? Walk me through what was happening as soon as you found out.
Well, I guess I'm an exception to the rule. I have a radio that I can listen to on the fire. So I know exactly where to go. But it's kind of in a remote area as far as residences are concerned.
Okay.
It's an on this side. Now, this is the what would be the south or west side of Anne Arundel County. Baltimore County is a little different. It may be for residents on that side. But again, Baltimore County is severely impacted. The Old Sparrows Point has been redeveloped with a lot of industry. So all those workers, many of them are affected adversely with their travel in the morning or in the afternoon.
I just wonder.
Yeah, tremendous impact.
Yeah. Donald, I just wonder before we let you go, how you feel looking at this happen. I mean, miles away, you look at these dramatic images and it is just so shocking to your core. How does it feel to just be so close to something like this?
Well, again, I have a different perspective. I look at it from someone who's been trained to deal with it, and I was impressed with the response and the way people came together. And I look at things like the media. Again, I'm doing a great.
And so this is actually what I was, I think it was Francis had said how I had said, you know, cars were going in both directions on the bridge, but then right before the second power, you can see there are no cars going back and forth. You can still see the construction crew here. They have those flashing lights, but at this point, the cars had been stopped from crossing.
Great job in keeping us informed. So as much as we can do to mitigate the problems associated with the incident, I think we're doing okay. But again, the investigation has to go forward to find out what happened and how we can prevent situations like this from occurring again. It's just, we just can't have these things happen.
Absolutely. Donald, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. So joining us now on the phone with more on this story is Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott.
Okay, and I am going to stop it there because we did hear from Brandon Scott in the presser, the earlier presser. Oh, shoot, and I didn't want to stop sharing. So this actually, as I was going through my tabs, I did want to share these photos. This was posted on Twitter from someone named Alex Purdue Train Chaser. And here are photos. It looks like someone someone who was part of the rescue operation took these photos. And so this is one vantage point. You have this vantage point, which really puts it into perspective. And then here is one of those pilars. So I did want to end with that. I forgot I had those. Yeah, K-Braze. Yeah, the flashing lights were based on the New York Times article. That was the construction crew. Yes. And just before I say adios, I'm just going to check to see if the New York Times has, now it says it was updated 3 minutes ago. Okay, so this must, one new update. Okay, so the New York Times has, okay, let's just read this. So the update is on Jesus Campos, who was, he had said that it's his coworkers who were on the bridge. So again, this was 3 minutes ago. Missing employees were working to support their families, a coworker says. And again, this was Bronner Builders, a construction company employee who said he labored alongside the 6 men missing after a Baltimore bridge collapse on Tuesday, said many of his coworkers were migrants working to support their relatives. We are low-income families, said Jesus Campos, who has worked at the construction company Bronner Builders for about 8 months. Our relatives are waiting for our help back in our home countries. The missing men worked for Bronner, a contractor based in Baltimore County. A senior executive at the company confirmed to the Associated Press on Tuesday. He said they were all presumed dead. Quote, this was so completely unforeseen, the executive Jeffrey Pritzker told the AP. He said the crew was working in the middle of the bridge when it came apart. It's tough, Mr. Campos said. He spent much of Tuesday afternoon at a gas station near where the police had blocked off the road to the Francis Scott Key Bridge. He wore a black sweatshirt bearing the construction company's name and milled about, waiting for news and speaking on the phone. Officials said that in addition to the 6 workers missing, 2 had been rescued from the water. One did not need medical treatment, and another was taken to a hospital and released later in the day. At least one of the missing men, Miguel Luna, was an immigrant from El Salvador, according to We Are Casa, a nonprofit that provides services to the immigrant community in Baltimore. Mr. Luna, 40, is married and has 3 children, said Gustavo Torres, the organization's executive director. He learned that Mr. Luna was one of the missing from Mr. Luna's family. He said Mr. Luna had been living in Maryland for at least 19 years. State officials said the crew was fixing potholes. Bronner was founded in 1980, according to its website, and its employees work on schools, historic properties, bridges, and other infrastructure. The company has performed other work for the state, which manages the bridge in the past. A woman who answered the phone at the company on Tuesday said she did not have any information. Mr. Pritzker, the company executive, did not respond to inquiries from the New York Times. This situation is very difficult, Mr. Campos said. He told the Baltimore Banner that the employees who remained missing were from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. The Guatemalan embassy and the Mexican consulate in Washington said in statements that the nationalities of the missing people were still being determined. Embassies for the other 2 countries did not immediately respond to requests for comment. And I just wanted to look at the Baltimore Banner because that is referenced in that article. And I think it's pretty much everything that we've read. Yeah. So that is the most updated information as per the New York Times, who also cited the Associated Press. So I will definitely be looking at this story, and if needed, I will post any updates most likely to my community page, or I may even do a short video. It all depends. Most likely, though, probably share to my community page, and then as information comes in, I will do another live to update everyone. So I know, Francis, the crew didn't have a chance. And just like I had said with the bus, the accident between the bus and the concrete truck and the passenger vehicle behind, I just hope they didn't have time to really react, and that, they went into shock before they realized what was happening. Oh, you're welcome, Southern Gale. Thanks for being here, and thank you, Cocoa Puff. So yeah, everybody have a great night. It's actually raining here at the moment. So on Saturday we got upwards of 18 inches of snow, and now it's 50 degrees and raining. So only in upstate New York. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your night. Don't forget, tomorrow is Wordsy Wednesday, so we will be playing words on stream at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if need be, if I do have an update with this story or another story, I will possibly do a really short live when I get home from work. So thanks everybody for being here. And Southern Gal, thank you so much for your super sticker. You did not have to do that, but it is appreciated. And just as I appreciate all of you just for being here, True Jedi, thank you. Thank you. Hold the applause. Hold the applause. Yeah, so have a great night. If I don't see you on these YouTube streets, I will see you all on the flip side.